Today I will be demonstrating the FastTrack360 middle and back office. We're going to start from the job order and have a look at the elements on a job order that contribute to the pay and bill outcomes. We'll then have a look at the many methods that time can be processed in FastTrack, how that time is then interpreted against the rates that are applied to your job order, and then how those rates are processed through payroll and billing. So from the job order, you can enter a job schedule. The job schedule is typically forecast hours of the job. These forecast hours can be used for reporting purposes to compare against the actual hours once these jobs have been processed through payroll and billing. These forecast hours can also be defaulted through to your timesheets, so your candidates need only edit the changes to their hours from their schedules. So if they work a bit of overtime or they finish early on any given day. On the job order, you can also see the applicable work cover, state and code, and payroll tax state. The timesheet workflow shows who the participants in the timesheet for this job order are going to be. This is an online timesheet job. So the payee is going to be the person who initiates or keys the timesheet, and the client will approve the timesheet. Inside your workflows, you can set up certain reminders. This ensures that your payees submit their timesheets within your payroll timeframe and your clients approve it. This will remind payees that they need to submit their timesheets within a certain timeframe. And once they have submitted their timesheets, it can remind clients that they've got timesheets that they need to approve. Notifications can be grouped. So if you had a client that had 100 workers out there and you didn't want to send them 100 emails to remind them they've got timesheets to approve, you can group them together into lots. So they simply can log in a time frame to approve those timesheets. Links to these timesheets can also be embedded into the reminders for the candidates and the clients. So they can simply click on the link from their reminder email and approve the timesheet simply in one click. All of these attributes we've looked at on the job order can be set up globally within your system, and it can also be set up at templates that apply specifically to a client. And you can also adjust any of these requirements at the job end to suit your business's needs. Once these attributes have been added to the job order, jobs are submitted to timesheets. Upon the submission to timesheets, validations occur. That is to ensure that the payee who's been filled to the job order has a valid payee record with the right details for the right time frame of the placement, and the client that the job order belongs to has a valid debtor record for the company that the job belongs to. So let's have a look at how time can be submitted in FastTrack. There is a mobile timesheet link that your candidates and clients can use from their smartphones to simply submit and approve their timesheets while they're on the go. Timesheets are often imported into the system as well. If you have customers that, maybe are using a time clock on their site and can provide you with an export file of that, that file can simply be imported into the system as keyed and approved time. The fields on the spreadsheet are matched to fields on the timesheet, and templates can be created to make this a very simple process on a week-to-week basis. There will be, on occasion, the time where you will need to key timesheets. As part of the timesheet workflow, timesheets live in various stages. Available timesheets are timesheets waiting to be keyed. Timesheets can be keyed and submitted by yourself, the agency, or typically by the candidates using the online link. Once timesheets have been submitted, those notifications are sent to your client so they can log in or click the links and approve those timesheets. If that submitted time needs to be edited, the timesheets can be rejected to be remedied by the candidate. As the agency, you have complete visibility over all the timesheets all the time. So let's have a look at how to key a timesheet. Timesheets come in two views, and I'm showing you the view from the PC today, not the mobile link. Here's a job that's been set up with a job schedule, and you can see the hours that have defaulted through to the timesheet. At this point, either yourselves or the candidate would simply need to edit the hours as they changed on each day, including any adjustments to breaks, addition of any allowances that would apply, and you can also key reimbursements against a timesheet and attach any copies of receipts as required. If you are on charging reimbursements, copies of those receipts can be automatically attached to your invoicing. Once a timesheet has been keyed, you can submit and approve that time. When time is approved, either by yourselves or by the candidate, that time is then picked up by the interpreter service. What the interpreter service does is it takes that time that has been approved on timesheets and washes it against the rates that have been applied to the job order the timesheet belongs to and does your breakdowns for you. So your candidates and your clients can be submitting and approving time 7 days a week, 24 hours in a day, and those breakdowns will automatically occur for you. If I was a candidate submitting time, I would click submit, and it's upon this action the client would then be notified that they had timesheets to approve. Okay, so let's have a look at some interpreted timesheets. You can see here that the time has been interpreted to pay 7.5 of ordinary for 5 days a week, and then when it hits Saturday, it's paid the first 2 hours at time and a half and the remainder of the shift on double time. You can check from Interpreter the timesheet hours that were keyed and submitted and approved. You can see on the original timesheet tab the hours that have been submitted and approved. And here on the Interpreted Timesheet Details tab, you can see what has interpreted. You can intervene and adjust rates at this stage should you need to. However, once your agreements are set up to suit your business's needs and your customers' needs, the breakdowns will occur the same way every week, so they will meet your needs and should not need any intervention. The interpreter review is typically the first time that our customers engage with their timesheets on a weekly basis. They have their candidates submitting time, their clients approving it, and they will come in here and do pre-payroll checks against the pay quantities, bill quantities, GP, any of those other pre-payroll checks and balances that need to occur. There is reporting built into the system to assist you within that process. As an example, if you need to manage fatigue, so manage hours between shifts for your payees, you can run reports and see if anyone has done back-to-back shifts with less than a 10-hour gap. Once that reporting has been reviewed and any actions have been taken, you set your timesheets to reviewed, and that enables the timesheet to be ready for payroll or billing. Let's have a look at the hours on Monday. From the original timesheet tab, we can see that this payee has worked 10 hours on the Monday. We can see that the interpreted time has paid 7.6 at ordinary. It has then banked 0.4 for RDO and then has paid an additional 2 hours on time and a half. So let's have a look at the agreement that is attached to the job that created these breakdowns for this timesheet. Agreements can be as simple or as complicated as you need them to be. Quite often they're configured to be based off a federal award or an EBA. Here is an example that's been set up based off the construction award with an 8-hour day, 38-hour week and a 0.4 RTO. There are several main parts to an agreement. You can set up the classifications or the job roles that your payees will be paid against. These labels here are selected when the rates are added to the job, so you know which level they will be paid on. The next part of the agreement is the primary interpretation. So when the timesheets are being processed through the interpreter, it firstly looks at the job role that the person is being paid on, and then the time that has been approved will run through the primary interpretation. You can set time rounding against your agreement. This means that if your payee keys that they start at 6:02 in the morning and you wish to pay that from 6 o'clock, you can use the system to round that time for you. The approved time then washes against midnight boundaries. When the time is submitted, the midnight boundary rules check to see if any of those approved hours cross over midnight and then determines what to do. Midnight boundaries can be set up for any day of the week, including the weekend, and in this example, they've been set up for a public holiday. So let's use Melbourne Cup as an example. Let's say that your payee starts work at 10 p.m. on the Monday night and finishes at 6 a.m. on the Tuesday Melbourne Cup day. How do you want to pay that shift? Do you want to pay the 2 hours that occur on the Monday night shift rate, and then the remaining 6 hours that occur on the public holiday rate? And if that is the case, you can set the system to split the hours that cross midnight on a public holiday. You do have other options to select as well. You also have the ability to pay that shift when it starts or when it finishes. So once the time has washed against the primary interpretation, it then moves into the secondary interpretation. The secondary interpretation then checks the different time rules to work out which shift should apply. Time rules have two components. They have conditions and they have actions. When the approved time is being interpreted, it is looking against these rules to see which shift to apply. So let's have a look at day shift. If the approved time is not on a public holiday and the shift starts between 5 a.m. and 9:59 a.m. and it's a Monday to Friday, the system will then determine that those conditions have in fact been met and the day shift will apply. From that point, it will then move to the actions of what happens in a day shift. In this example, the system will pay ordinary at 1 per hour to a maximum of 7.6 per day, or 38 within a week. Against the 38 maximum per week rule, you can see that there is a pay group. The pay group facilitates the calculation of all hours on all ordinary time shifts to then contribute to the 38-hour maximum per week limit before overtime applies. So let's look at this again. Ordinary will pay at 1 per hour to a maximum of 7.6 a day, or 38 in a week. When the 7.6 per day has been breached, the next 0.4 hours will then be banked into an RDO. When that rule has been met, the next 2 hours in the day will be paid at time and a half, and then the remainder of the shift at double time. So our candidate worked 10 hours on the Monday. So the next 0.4 hours will be banked as RDO, and the next 2 will be paid at time and a half. If the 38 limit per week on ordinary hours is breached, the system will then pay the next 2 hours at time and a half and the remainder of the shift on double time. You'll also notice against the weekly rule there is a pay code group, and this allows the grouping of ordinary time pay codes. So if you have a candidate that does 3 days on day shift and 2 days on afternoon shift, those hours will accumulate towards the weekly total for overtime calculations. So once the system's worked out which shift to apply to the approved hours, and it's done the hour breakdown, it then works out how much to pay them. And this is done through the rate rules. Typically, agreements are set up with base rates. The base rates are then used to calculate any of the other shift or overtime rates. You'll also notice in here you can build a rate description against these rates, which you can populate to the pay slips to make sure your candidates know how their rates are being calculated. By using base rates as a calculation point within an agreement, FastTrack has built-in utilities to facilitate easy uplifting of these rates when that time of the year happens. There is the bulk rate update, which allows you to export your pay and your charge rates into Excel sheets, update the rates in the sheets, and then upload them back into the system. What this will do is create a new date range within your agreement from when the new rates apply, so that any job orders or job templates that have been set up using these agreement rates will automatically pick up that uplifted rate from the date that you choose to have the date changed from. Should you need to change rates after the effective date rate change, you can do this by using the back pay facility. This allows you to put an effective rate change in and automatically regenerate timesheets with the calculated pay difference and bill difference to easily create those pay and invoices for your candidates and your clients. So here we are back in Interpreter. Again, you can see that 10 hours has been submitted on the Monday and how this is broken down against that agreement to automatically come up with your pay and your bill solutions for this timesheet. Once timesheets have been set to reviewed, you can then run your invoices or your payroll. Now, I've shown you a long way about this by reviewing one timesheet at a time. Typically, our customers are looking at lists of 100 timesheets at a time here per customer or per branch, and using reporting just to validate any of those, and are using the reporting to validate any specific business requirements before setting to reviewed. So let's have a look at a payee record before we process the payroll. You can see on a payee record, you can set up their specific frequency of payroll, their tax details, any superannuation details, their bank account, and any deductions that may apply to them. There's quite a lot of flexibility in the use of deductions within FastTrack. Here's one that's been set up for child support that has the net protection rate built into it. So each week this person will be paid, this deduction will occur, protecting this net value. Let's have a look at a pay batch. Everything you need to do for your pay process is from the pay process drop-down menu. Running your pay run, generating your bank files, delivering your pay slips to your payees, generating any EFT files for deductions that have been set up with bank details. You can also search against historical pay information if a candidate has a pay inquiry, and you can generate your super stream file based on your super contribution frequency. A pay batch is a wizard with multiple steps. You can either move through each step individually, or you can roll from the beginning to the end as I have in this particular instance. Each stage of the pay wizard calculates a different element of the pay. That may be accruing leave for any eligible payees, calculating tax, any deductions, or your wage on costs. Let's have a look at this pay. You can intervene at any stage of the pay wizard and make adjustments if necessary, but typically this is not required. You can see that I'm at the review stage of the pay wizard. Let's have a look at the breakdown of this pay. On the Pay Batch Items tab, you can see the breakdowns of the hours that will be paid to this person. You can see the tax that is calculated for this individual. And on the Wage Costs tab, you can see the calculation of superannuation, payroll tax and work cover. The payroll system has a full reporting suite. Some of the most commonly run reports are the distribution of funds report, which can be used to reconcile your bank file upload, and the payee payroll detailed report, which gives you a full breakdown of all the different elements in the pay. Once you've conducted your checks and balances for your pay batch, you can close your pay batch. When you close your pay batch, you can automatically submit this pay batch file to STP. If you're running multiple pay batches in a day, you can also upload these pay batches separately. Once your pay batch is closed, you can generate your bank file on upload as per your normal process, deliver your pay slips to the candidate's portals or via email, or both. Once you've created your pay, you can then generate your invoices. Before we create an invoice batch, let's have a quick look at a debtor record. On a debtor record, you can set up the specific billing requirements for that customer, such as their terms, the frequency of their invoicing, and the way their job orders will split to different invoices. Some of the most commonly selected groupings are debtor, which would allow all of the jobs that belonged to this customer to appear on one invoice, and PO number, which would automatically generate a separate invoice for each purchase order number. From a debtor record, you also select the different delivery requirements, such as who's going to be receiving the invoice and by what method. By selecting delivered invoice timesheets, you can automatically have a copy of the electronic timesheet from FastTrack attached to the invoice. These electronic timesheets contain the audit information of the customer who has approved the timesheet and when. And you can also have any attachments put against the timesheets automatically sent out with the invoicing as well. FastTrack360 has multiple ways of managing purchase order numbers. There are many ways in FastTrack to manage purchase order numbers. One of them is from the debtor record, where you can create purchase order numbers that have balances and then can send you alerts when those balances are being run down or breached. You can also set up purchase order numbers simply with a time frame without budgets. And from the debtor purchase order details, simply link the job orders that apply to that purchase order number to meet your billing requirements. So let's have a look at how to generate an invoice batch. Remember, when we were in Interpreter, we've already confirmed that our pay and charge rates are correct. So generating invoicing becomes a pretty simple process at that point. Here is 2 invoice batches waiting for generation that relate to that purchase order number we just looked at with a budget breach. By opening this invoice batch, you can see that we expected 5 timesheets for this customer within the period, and 5 timesheets have been reviewed. This is a really simple way for the billing team to check whether all of the timesheets for that week have been processed before they generate the invoice for the client. Once you've validated you're ready to generate the invoice for this client, select the invoice date and click Create Invoice Batch. Now it's as simple as delivering the invoices to the client, select your email template and click Send Email. Once your payroll and billing processes have been completed each week, you can then export that data into your accounting system. Finance exports are built on your requirements to meet your financial reporting needs and for your specific accounting system.